Hello there, I'm Dennis, and I get to do something very special today. A friend of mine has a laptop, and it is a HP Stream laptop, 14-inch screen there, monitor, and it comes with an Intel Celeron. It's a 2-core processor and 4 gigabytes of RAM. But to me, this is probably the most interesting part, that it's only got a 32 gigabyte eMMC, which stands for multimedia card, embedded multimedia card. And I'll put the description of that in the video here. A little history. This time last year, or about this time last year, I put Linux Mint Cinnamon version on a USB stick, and I showed him how to boot this computer up into that USB. And so he used it for quite a while. Finally, though, one of the Windows updates came in, he didn't know it, and it broke the bootloader, or grub. Actually, you got the grub rescue menu when you did try to boot into it, which could be fixed. But he realized that he was fighting a losing battle because of this 32 gigabyte hard drive. That's ridiculous. I'm going to probably say this more than once in this video. I'm not sure how they even got away with this. And I'll show you how they justified it, I guess is the right way of saying it. So this is the computer, and you can see buy used $400. So if it's used at $400, I don't know what it sold for brand new, but with that kind of system resources, it really surprises me that they sold that much. Here's the reason why. After looking at it, I figured out why it cost so much for such a low spec laptop. It's because it came with 1 terabyte of a OneDrive storage, which OneDrive comes pre-installed on Windows 10 anyway. They got a whole year of the up to 1 terabyte of storage on the OneDrive, and they get to use the Word Office program for a year. Here's actually Intel Celeron, the same stuff I just said. So that's how they charge so much. You're buying those services, not so much the laptop, and it's a good thing. So in this video, we're going to install Linux Mint 20 Juliana. I'm going to use the OEM method, and I'm going to try to actually video the last part where the consumer end user would turn on the computer and log in and set it up. And so you'll understand the entire process. So we're going to use Linux Mint, and we're going to do an OEM install on the HP Stream. Okay. I got an HP Stream. It came with a 30 gig hard drive with Windows 10 installed by default. It got to a point where there was no more room to even do just updates, and there's nothing installed on here except for what came by default. And I actually removed some of those programs in order to make room, and it just finally run out of room, and now the computer is stuck with Windows 10 and can't do any upgrades, so therefore it's a security issue. Well, last year, I put Linux Mint on a USB drive and showed him how to boot into it, and he'd been using Linux Mint for a while, and this is the drive here. I don't know how well that's going to show up against the screen, but it's a 32 gig USB drive. Anyway, so he would boot into that for about the last year now, and finally, one of Windows updates, it broke the bootloader, and you'd get the grub rescue. He asked me to go ahead and install Linux Mint onto this computer, and so that's what you're seeing now. I've got into the boot order, and I'm going to select. I hope this is readable. I'm not sure. The USB hard drive, the UEFI General U disk, and that's what we're going to boot up to. Linux Mint is one of the few systems that will allow you to do a OEM install, and I've highlighted that right there. It's right underneath the highlight there. It says OEM install for manufacturers. Otherwise, you could just normal setup. I'm going to have to come up with his name, his password, and then he's going to have to go in and change all of that. And even though he's going to change all of that, it will still be in the system, according to Joe Collins, and I believe him. So anyway, instead of selecting the normal Start Linux Mint, I'm going to select OEM Install for manufacturers, and I'm going to hit Enter. And I watched Joe's video on how to do this. I'm going to just go through it. It looked fairly straightforward and simple. With the exception, I am going to add some programs, and if I understood Joe right, he installed HTOP, and then when it booted up back into the system, he went ahead and created a user and signed into his finished account. And when he did, HTOP was still there. So I'm hoping by that same theory that I can install a small list of programs that I think he's going to need dealing with photographs, and maybe put solitaire on here. What kind of computer wouldn't have solitaire? Eventually, this will boot up. Right now, it's finding out it's not online because it's only got the Wi-Fi, and I hadn't set that up yet because we hadn't got that far. It's also looking for my hard drive and any other devices, firmware, hardware, etc. Okay, so it correctly selected English. And I'm going to go Continue. Alright, so the keyboard here, I'm going to just one-handedly do a little test here. So turn number lock on, it should go 1, 2, 3, and it did. So I'm going to say, okay, continue. Not a very good test, but it'll work. Okay, so now it's asking me to hook up, and it's reading my Wi-Fi, or my internet connection. So I'm gonna highlight it, and you highlight yours, and I'm gonna click connect, and now I'm gonna have to give it my password, and I'm gonna have to set this down. So I'm gonna stop, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've hit it. I put in it's asked me for my password. I put that in, and I hit enter, and now I get the continue button lighted up, or not grayed out. So we're connected. So I'm gonna hit continue. This option is the same as it would be on any install, and I highly suggest that you do this unless for some reason you know you don't need any of this. But it says multimedia codecs. We're going to install multimedia codecs. Multimedia codecs are required to play some video formats and to properly render some websites. So without these, you may not even be able to browse the internet. You might not have sound. No telling what you might not have if you don't go ahead and click that, because it's going to look into your system and see what we've got. It's going to compare that to what is available, and it'll bring in what's available. The thing is, I run it on a live USB, so I know there's no problems, but I still want those multimedia codecs. So I'm going to click continue. By the way, I've plugged a little nub in for the wireless keyboard and mouse. I hate I hate laptop keyboards. Some of them are okay. Some of them are worse than others, though, that's for sure. Okay, so now it's asking us what the installation type. Do we want to erase Linux Mint that's already on here? And it's picking that up because I booted up and went into a normal installation, whereas I want to set up the OEM. So the next option is install Linux Mint alongside. We're not going to do that. We're going to select erase disk and install Linux Mint. The advanced features is for encryption, or LBM, and I'm going to say cancel because I don't really want any of that. And when I click next here, I would ordinarily set up my hard drive by giving myself a swap and boot partition and all that. But I'm going to let Mint do it because it's going to create a swap file whether I create a swap partition or not. So considering this is only a 30 gig hard drive to start with, which is unbelievable. How did they get away with that? And anyway, before I go way off there, I'm going to hit install, and it should diagnose what it's going to have to do, and then come up and confirm that. So we're going to get an EFI boot partition or ESP boot partition. And all the rest of it will be the root drive. Click continue. I don't have a menu or a desktop of any kind, so I'm not sure how I don't know what changed. Unless I'm going to get a chance to do that before I finally hit. Okay, so it's selected Chicago, which I don't live in Chicago, but it is in the correct time zone for me. And I'm going to leave the computer name laptop just what it did by default. It's going to make me create a password. I'm just going to type in Mint. I just told you my password. Not really. If I understand right now, as soon as this gets set up, all that'll be gone. That's the reason why we're doing the OEM install. Alright, so the continue button now can be pressed. Select next. But this is going to be a little bit here. I'll come back when there's something else to record. Yeah, so it's only been a few minutes. It's downloaded everything it needs, I believe, and it's actually installing them at this point. Like right now it says installing language pack GNOME, English base. I saw where I'm distracted. I got a truck out in my front road there. Anyway, I saw where they were installing the suite of Linux. I mean, of course, Linux, LibreOffice, and who knows if it's still or fresh, but I would think it would be still, which always can be bypassed and updated for a newer version. One of the things I want to say is I'm putting Linux Mint on here because he's familiar with it. I do have two other distributions that I think are just as good, maybe even better for a new user. But he's familiar with Linux Mint at this point. He has actually used it. You know, I'm hoping that because of that familiarity, he'll get interested in this and then maybe ask me one day, is there something better? Or something else to do something else with? Alright, so this looks like it's still got a few minutes to go here. I'm going to go ahead and stop and I'll come back when there's something else. Okay, so it got finished, and the install screen disappears, and then you get a little window that says the installation is complete. You need to restart in order to use your system. And that's all you could do. Wi-Fi. Welcome to Linux Mint. First steps. Prepare for shipping. Oh, okay, right here is where you install whatever programs you want to install and then prepare for shipping. So I'm going to be right back. Yeah, I think this is interesting. I just run a disk-based df-h, and you can see that it created a 511 megabyte boot EFI partition. 511. But that's interesting because I think 300 is probably the smallest I've seen people use, but normally I use 512. That's probably what they use there, but it's only registering 511. And I'm installing programs, and when I get through here, so all I got to do is double click this prepare for shipping, and it'll shut down, I think, and then when they restart the machine, it'll come up with asking for a username and etc. Okay, I'll be back. I've got some settings in here. I got him some programs to deal with his pictures. He mostly deals with photographs from his camera or really his cell phone. And so in his favorites here, I've got pics, which came in by default, rhythm box, calculator, text editor, software manager, disk, and system monitor, which was the only thing in this category that I added. But this computer ought to be pretty fast. It's only a 2-core processor. It's got 4 gigs of RAM though, and it's running on a SSD, not a SSD, a SD card. And so for graphics in here, I've installed Krita and Nomax and Shotwell. Let's see, multimedia. I put on here Audacity in case he wants to change, who knows. And celluloid. And so other than that, I think it's ready. And I'm fixing to double click this. Prepare for shipping to the end user. Double click it. It's asking me for my password to install your machine. Okay, hopefully that's the password I've already created. Let's see what happens. Open config will run the next time the system boots. Okay. Well, I updated. I wonder why that didn't. Oh, because I got to do that little warning thing. Local mirrors, I'll wait on that. So my system's up to date. So that's another thing I did too, was did the updates, and there was quite a few. Let's see, see what. Right now it says that 8.4 gigs, and that's with all the updates and everything. So he's still got available almost, it says 19 gigs. So he's got more available than Windows used to start with. I just really cannot understand what they had in mind and how they can even get away with selling a computer that's only got 30 gig hard drive or storage capacity. All right. I'm going to try to film him opening this up, seeing what that screen is. Okay, thanks. The Linux Mint that we installed and did an OEM install on, the guy booted it up, and this is your first screen, getting English, wanting your language. Go ahead. And he's using his mouse pad, so it's going to take him a minute. Is that your keyboard? English?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now it's asking you for your Wi-Fi. You're going to have to select it.
I forget which one it is.
When you select it, hit continue. I'll let it most this out. Now, you'll have to put in that code. And I don't think it'll show it. Some of them used to show it, but they quit doing that. And it didn't show it at my house. There we go. Thing, it ain't 32 characters. All right, and then as soon as it connects, you should be able to continue. There you go. There you go. That's now it's asking you about time zones.
Yeah.
Chicago is in the central time zone, just like we are. So you're good to go. All right, now it's asking you for your name. Your name can be anything. It can be caps, non-caps.
Oh, okay.
You'll get to see the green button there.
Yeah, that just means it's good to go?
Yes. And then you're going to want a password. You'll have to confirm the password. Now, if you want to log in automatically every time you boot up, you don't want to have to log in. There's where you
because no one else is going to use it.
Also, if you want to encrypt your hard drive, which means it'll be encrypted so a spy couldn't go into it and just break it real easily.
Okay.
That's up to you.
Yeah.
Personally, I wouldn't do it, but only because of the size of your hard drive.
Wow.
Updating the components and keyboard. You're good to go. That's all you got to do, I think.
That wasn't very nice to say.
What?
Talking about the size of my hard drive.
That's what you said.
Man, it seems to be average, average above average. Okay, so from now on, it's going to kick it right under that.
From now on, you may have to reboot it right here. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But from now on, it'll just come up, and you'll have a login screen. Did you select login automatically?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll just go right into your...
I think I did.
You'll find out.
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Either way, just don't forget your password.
No, I got that. That's pretty...
So this Linux Mint is going to configure itself. And when it gets through configuring itself...
Yeah.
Probably going to have to reboot, and then he'll be ready to go. End video. Okay, so I haven't shown the reason. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because I want to show that the applications that I installed are here. And one of them was GNOME System Monitor. I'm going to put that in my favorites. Open that up. And I give this VM 2 cores of my processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 2 gigabytes of swap. And it's using 694. So that's one software that I installed prior to starting the first time. And you can see everything I installed prior to the final boot up or the end user startup is here. That's it. I was able to record the laptop when we turned it back on, or when Bob, my friend, turned it back on. I was able to get some screenshots. However, he was in the middle of he owns a store, and he was in the middle of operations that day, so I wasn't able to really get a good view of what was happening. So I've set up Linux Mint in my virtual box. Here, I've clicked the prepare for shipping, and it's told me that the next time that it booted up, that I would be, it was ready for the customer to boot it up. And so in essence, what we're going to see here is just a clear version of what I got the other day. And I will show the other part just because it was there. I mean, I don't know what kind of editing I'm going to have to do to either one of these. Hopefully this will change its screen size here and make it a little more visible. Nope. Alright, so I'm going to do that here. Let me see if I can get a terminal in there. Yeah, that was in here. Alright, so let's see. X-Randor. Oops. Gotta spell it right. X-Randor. And I got available, let's go with 1680 by 1050. Now to put me on full screen here, so X-Randor space S, and then the resolution, and there we go, much better. So when you first boot it up, this is what we saw on his laptop. This is what you'll see as well. And it correctly selected English for me. I'm going to hit continue. And like I said, I have this on video where he actually did it. And this is for your keyboard. And that works. Alright. So remember now, everything has already been set up. This is the initial turn on. This is just like if he went to the store and bought a computer and brought it home. It correctly selected Chicago. Alright, now it's asking me for my name, or in his case it would have been his name, but here I'm just going to give it my name. I'm going to get a password. And I'm not going to log in automatically. It's warning me that I have a short password. I don't care. It's just a VM. I'm going to delete the VM as soon as I get through with this. Not going to encrypt the home folder. The point being, this is the options. Once you set it up in the OEM version, Linux Mint OEM version, this is what the end user is going to see. All right, I'm going to click continue. Now it's configuring and installing the few programs that I had installed on his. I installed them on here, like Audacity, GIMP, Blender, GNOME System Monitor, Krita, Nomax, and Shotwell, and Solitaire, of course. So when this thing boots up, it should have those programs still installed on it. His did. That was the first thing I made sure that. And then I had him go ahead and set up time shift. And instead of saving it on his little 30 gig hard drive, I still can't get over that. I see how they did it. They sold it and, gave you basically free hard drive space on the internet. I don't know. The reason I guess that would be for a student, maybe college student who didn't want to carry around a big heavy laptop. Because I swear this thing don't weigh but about 1.5 pounds, if that much. Anyway, so this is what you'll see. And now everything is just like if he installed it or a new user installed it. So you would do the installation basically for them. The only thing they would have to do is set the time zone in their name. And if you know any programs that they want, like I knew he was going to want something to do with photographs, so I went ahead and installed those photo editors, manipulators, unpacking Ubiquity. This is already taking longer than I would have thought. And I might cut this part out. I hear thunder. It's that time of the year. We got another storm heading our way. Hurricane, I think it may have made hurricane status. Either way, installed Ubiquity package postscript, sub-process return error. Not sure what that means. Dependency problem, leaving unconfigured. An error occurred while installing packages. E-sub-process, return an error code 1 or a broken state. Following packages, but it's not listing a package. Let's see what happens. Sometimes they report errors and it's not really an error. Let's find out. It's not going to let me get past that. It's still doing something. Applying changes. Could be because I'm in a VirtualBox. I did read quite a bit where Mint was having a problem with VirtualBox. Now, that was a few months ago, so I had anticipated that those problems were over with, but you never know. VirtualBox can be cantankerous, and so can an OS that's being installed in a VirtualBox. So you just don't know. It's funny how that jumped in the middle when I closed that. Running post installation. Never mind. All this looks normal. Not sure what it wasn't able to do or process. We'll find out if all works here in a second. I hope it happens before that thunder gets any louder. I'm gun shy now. If you watch my first, I think it was my third video, Who is Dennis? That's what brought me to Linux, was thunderstorm come in and I heard thunder real close, and I jumped up and went and turned my router off, but before I could get there, another thunder bumper, and bang! Basically ruined my computer. Uh-oh. That one was pretty loud. Not sure what's happening here. I think it's rebooting. Yep. And it's in full screen. All right, there's my password. So far, so good. So this, in essence, is what you're going to see. If you set up an OEM, Linux Mint OEM, that's exactly what your end user is going to see. Where's my desktop here? It's coming. There it is. Instead of using X-Render, let me go to Settings, Display, 1680 by 1050, Apply, Keep it, Close. And there we go. Now it's ready to go. This is what he got. I had already done Driver Manager, and I had done the update, so the only thing he had to do was go through here and basically tweak it out. And I did have him run the system snapshot, and I don't know if I completed that thought a while ago or not, but instead of doing the backing up the snapshot onto his hard drive, which was only 30 gigs to start with. He only had around 20 gigs left over after the install. He put it on a 32 gigabyte external USB thumb drive, in other words. All right, well, that thunder's awful close. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you learned something. I sure did. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye. Peace.